الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آل سيدنا محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد. اللهم ألهمنا مراشد أمورنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا. Discussing the most blessed Hijrah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from the Mubarak city of Makkah Mukarramah to the city which was at that time known as the land of Yathrib. It did not really have that which a person would have desired going towards. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, however, mentioned, Almighty Allah has shown me in a dream a village that will eat other villages. He says the people call it Yathrib. Yathrib means a very dirty place, a very evil place. Hazrat Aisha radiallahu anha says that when we reached Medina Munawwara, Abu Bakr radiallahu anh, her father, Amir ibn Fuhaira, the shepherd, Bilal radiallahu anh, the muezzin, all of them were sick. The city was not the blessed city. It says in the water there was all of that infection. I asked Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam permission to go and visit them. One was her father, there was no need. But she says this was before the law of parda was revealed. I was given permission. I asked each one how they are. It was not a very good scene, very good sight. Each one gave a response to show that how they are desiring the land of Makkah Mukarramah. She says, I came back and I said this to Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He lifted up his hands. And then that dua that he made what we see as today Medina Munawwara. He says, I saw a city which the people call Yathrib. He says, rather it is Quba. It is most blessed in its being. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam set out on this most blessed journey of the Hijrah. How much of effort was made to keep him back in Makkah Mukarramah, to prevent him from going, to either hold him as captive or to assassinate him. When the decision of Almighty Allah, however, was there, it had to happen. We have begun the series of the Hijrah. One is because the new year is a reminder for everyone of the Hijrah. But more so, because me and you need to create in our hearts now a thought that perhaps a time might come where I also will have to make a Hijrah. To be ready for a Hijrah, prepared for a Hijrah. Makkah Mukarramah was the city of business at that time. How we understand it today as the blessed Makkah Mukarramah. In the era of Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it wasn't that. It was the city of power. It was the religious, what is meant at that time, financial hub. When the days of Hajj would come, those 3 months, the Arabs from around, from far and wide, the markets of Makkah Mukarramah were the most busiest of markets. This was the center of power at that time. Leaving the center of power, you are now going to what was known as a village which does not have the purest of air. That was the meaning of Hijrah. A time will come where many people of this ummah perhaps might have to make that Hijrah. We might also have to leave our own financial hub, our own seat of power, and we perhaps might have to make a journey to a land where the house that we had always will not be there. The business that we always knew might not be there. The Hijrah was to give a message to the world that if your journey is towards Almighty Allah, you will find barakah everywhere. On the path you will find barakah. Your enemies might become your friends. The roads will open up. On this journey, Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed by the tent of Ma'bad radiyallahu anha. The name of the Sahabiya was Atika bint Khalid. She had a tent on a path. This was not the normal path to Medina Munawwara. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam took a different route, a very difficult route, a dangerous route. Her tent, however, was on a path which people would travel on. She was known that anyone going past this year will stop over at the tent of Ma'bad. She would host. She was a very friendly old woman. She was very entertaining. But they found her at the time when there was droughts. There was no meat. There was no dates. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam saw the tent of Ma'bad radiyallahu anha. He indicated to Abu Bakr radiyallahu anh to move towards it. It is a message for me and you on the journey of Hijrah. Whoever will be ready to sacrifice what they already have, through the barakah of Hijrah, Almighty Allah will make their every step blessed. They came into the tent of Ma'bad radiyallahu anha and they asked her for meat, for dates, something that we will purchase from you. She says that we have seen the days of drought. We have nothing by us. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, what about milk? People of the deserts always had milk. You just needed one goat and the goat would be giving milk. There were certain types of sheep, they were giving their milk. She said, the animals that we have, they are gone very far. My husband have taken them out. They will only come back much later. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam fell on perhaps it was a sheep that was giving milk, or normally would give milk. Or it was a goat at the one back part of the tent. He indicated towards and said, what is that? She says, the only reason this one has not gone with the herd is it can't even move. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, what about milk? She said, very far from milk. Number one, no male has come close to her. And she has no power also. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, will you give me permission if I try to milk her? She says, if you want to try, you can try anything. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's Mubarak hand passes over the back of this animal, over the udder of this animal. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam takes the name of Allah. He makes dua. That animal just feels something happening. Historians say the animal itself pushed, meaning it opened up its legs as though it's ready to start giving. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked for a container and the milk started coming. The glass was filled. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam took out. He gave to his companions to drink. Alalan ba'da nahal, means they drank and they drank until they could drink no more. And this woman is just looking in amazement. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam then drank. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam milked it again. The woman is looking in amazement. He places the container in front of her. He says, you and your family also can enjoy this milk. Then he asks her, how much must I pay for this milk? She is more amazed than anything. She gives a price in shock. They put the money in front of her and they go out to leave. Later on, when her husband comes, as soon as he enters, he looks at that milk container. She is still in a state of shock. He says to her, where has this come from? She says, I do not know what happened today. This man entered and the milk came. The husband says, this must be that very man who the Quraysh are looking for. If there is so much of blessings in this man, he says, by the qasam of Allah, I will find this man wherever I find him, and I will join his path. Later on, he and the family would accept Islam. Historians write, what was that barakah of one hand that passed over that animal? Because they asked the question, that was it on that day only that that sheep or that goat gave that milk? So a narration comes that that animal remained by Ma'bad for very long after that. And they would take enjoyment in milking it. They would milk it at night, they would milk it at the day. They would milk it so much that they had no fear that the milk will ever come to a stop. In the era of Umar radiallahu anh, you can understand how many years that was. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam came, 10 years he was going to stay in Medina Munawwara. Abu Bakr radiallahu anh's 2 years of Khilafat. Then came the era of Umar radiallahu anh. In the era of Umar radiallahu anh, a very severe drought came. It was known as Amur Ramada, the year of sand, meaning it was just dust. There was no water, there was no food. They say even during the drought of Ramada, in the era of Umar radiallahu anh, Ma'bad radiallahu anha and her family, they would milk this animal morning and evening. Says around them there was nothing, but they had that thing that was just giving. The barakah of Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's hand, also the barakah of Hijrah. I am repeating why we are saying this. It's as long as a person does not keep himself inspired with the thoughts of Hijrah. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala makes indication to the Jews. Remember the Jews, they came to Medina Munawwara and the surrounding areas. What brought them? The very thing that brought them was waiting for the final messenger, with who they would take back the rule of Sulaiman alayhi salam. That brought them there. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala says, فَطَالَ عَلَيْهِمُ الْأَمَدِ. But because time passed and they became settled, that's that fear. When they became settled in Medina Munawwara, the Jews, this was not their land. But when they became settled, time passed. They became used to their environment. Now it was only money that they were seeing all sides. Now they still took enjoyment, like how many of us take enjoyment. Let's speak of Dajjal. A person says, enjoyable. Let's speak of the Mahdi. I want to hear about the Mahdi. Let's speak of the final times, signs of Qiyamah. I want to hear about it. The Jews also spoke about it. They spoke about it so much to the Arabs that they would say, when the messenger comes, we will join him. We will fight against you. We will get even more powerful. But all that we will, it was only cheap talk, thinking that perhaps it will never happen. It must not happen that me and you find ourselves in that position. Someone asked, why when Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to Medina Munawwara, why didn't the Jews accept him? So they gave the answer that no, he's from the progeny of Ismail alayhi salam. We like the people of Ishaq alayhi salam, the other son. That was not the truth at all, because from the beginning they knew. That is why they came to the land of Arabs. They knew that the final Nabi is from Ismail alayhi salam. That they knew already. It is called just looking for an excuse. Allah Tabarak Ta'ala speaks about that forget Allah's Nabi sallallahu alayhi wasallam, how many Anbiya came to the Jews. But every time a Nabi would come to them, جَاءَكُمْ رَسُولٌ بِمَا لَا تَحْوَى أَنفُسُكُمْ اسْتَكْبَرْتُمْ. Whenever a Nabi will come and he says something that's against your nature, it should not happen that me and you speak so much of the Mahdi, so much of the last days, and we talk about with such a thrill. I wonder how it's going to happen. Remember, Hijrah, when it comes with difficulties. There is difficulties for the people who have to make the journey. There is difficulty for the people of the land in which it's going to happen. When the era of the Mahdi will come, it will create a lot of imtihan and exams for the people who are far and for the people who are near. There will be those leaders whose eyes will open on the sound of the coming of the Mahdi. They will not show enjoyment, rather they will show fear and worry. When Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam entered Medina Munawwara, what was the reason why the Jews became upset? Because they understood very well that years and years of rule was now coming to an end. The entire political atmosphere was now going to change. Until now they had enjoyed Aus and the Khazraj were fighting like anything. They supported the Aus against the Khazraj. They supported the Khazraj against the Aus. They never thought that this war can come to an end. They were enjoying the wealth. They were enjoying the interest. They were living a nice, easy life. Whenever the fight was coming down, they would spur it again. And they never in their dreams thought that this war will come to an end. When the first pledge of Aqaba took place on the hands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they mentioned to him, we have one problem in our city, in our land. that the main two tribes are fighting. Allah's Nabi Sallallahu made dua. Almighty Allah made what we will call the impossible, but for Allah nothing is impossible. A war that was carrying on for over 100 years ended. We have now found a time. The Shaitani world speaks about the year 2030. They call it a vision. And we also speak about something is going to happen. In the land of Turkey at the moment, what is spoken about so much is 2023. They're thinking of 2030, here it's even closer, 2023. In 2023, so many things in the Muslim lands will change. 100 years from this date, Mustafa Kemal, the one who sold away Turkey and the Muslim world, the treaties that were signed, policies that Britain had formed, that the people of Turkey cannot use their own oil. They cannot dig for oil in their own lands. They have to buy oil from outside. That the waters of Turkey is open for all. They cannot put taxes on it. And so many other laws. But for some reason Almighty Allah made it that the pen was going to write. Or perhaps it was a policy that they could not change. 100-year policy. In their dreams, they never thought that they will need more than 100 years to destroy the entire land. Where they knew about after every 100 years, Almighty Allah makes the revolution. They felt what 100 years it will be finished, collapsed. Then Turkey will be ours. Then there is no need to worry about what they're going to do. It's going to be ours. They will do what we want. They will say what we want. There will be a land which is more atheist than even the atheist lands. But Allah Tabarak Ta'ala got His own system. How fast the revolution has come. And how close it came to 2023. Had this revolution of Turkey taken place perhaps 50 years ago, it would have been too early still. It would have given Shaitani forces so much of time to plan and plot. That Turkey must not reach this date because now it's an Islamic Turkey now. In recent times, how many Muslim countries have started forming alliances again with Muslim countries? When the Shaitani world cut and divided, they created that tribal nature in one and all. The people of Bangladesh hated the people of Pakistan. The people of Pakistan hated the people of India. The people of India of one village hated the people in another village. Hatred. Where would they ever join? There were schools of thought that were created. He had a different view, I had a different view. On that different view, it was a war. What was known as the word jihad was forgotten. What was known as fighting on the ground, meaning with your own brothers and sisters, was the name of the day. A man looked with more doubt and more evil at his Muslim brother and sister, but he would welcome a non-Muslim without any worry and fear. All of that was created, but Allah Tabarak Ta'ala, who brought the Aus and the Khazraj together on the dua of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, we are seeing at the present moment, day by day, Almighty Allah is uniting Muslim lands. And how Allah Tabarak Ta'ala wants it to happen, whether it's in a silent manner that it's happening, but it is happening. Quietly deals are being made. Country after country is joining in, alliances are being made. When the Muslim Ummah starts joining, it's a wake-up call to all of us, that you also be ready for an awakening. But let us not be like the Jews who knew it's going to happen, but they never wanted it to happen. If our heart is too connected to our world, when the day of the Mahdi will come, we will be the Jew of the time. The eye will lift. Allah's Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when he spoke about the first armies that will set out against the Mahdi, the indication he gave was about a Muslim army, not a non-Muslim army. In that army there would be traders also. But what are they doing with that army? The wife of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was worried when she heard that they will be swallowed by the earth. And she said, but in them there will be perhaps traders who got nothing to do. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave a unique answer, that Allah will resurrect them upon their intentions. But the question will be, why will they be with that army? Because everyone will not be happy of the Mahdi coming. Everyone will not. It will bring a thought to the world that now my business will be coming to an end. Now those interest transactions which I'm living on will come to a stop. Now that policies for which I paid so many years in the bank, life policies, if I'm going to walk out, I'll lose it all. And one of the things perhaps that might hold me and you is, if I have to leave, then will I manage to leave all that money and all that enjoyment and that wonderful house that I put out? Will I manage to leave it? The Hijrah was to say to me and you every year, are you ready? When Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam now reaches, before coming to Medina Munawwara, he stops at Quba. Quba is about 3 miles from Medina Munawwara. The people of Medina Munawwara every day, anticipating, waiting, every day they would go out. They would stand at a certain spot from which you could see in the distance. From the morning they would wait there until the time of what we call zawal, it gets very hot. Then they would return. There are many people in the world who every day are now waiting for the Mahdi. Perhaps me and you are not amongst those because we're not living in difficulty. But visit those lands where they are staying in nothing but tents. For them, the coming of the Mahdi is their only hope. It must not be for me and you the coming of the Mahdi is the end of our hope. Living in luxury should not stop us from waiting, but one is called waiting and one is called an intizar. Intizar with shauq, with desire. They would go every morning, they would wait, they would return. Then there was a day where a Yahudi, a Jew, was on top. He was on one of his high walls of his castle. And he looked in the distance and he saw this group coming. All of them were in white. It looked like a mirage first, but the mirage was disappearing and they were still coming through that mirage. So that scream came out to him that, oh people, that grandfather that you're waiting for, هَذَا صَاحِبُكُمْ, that I can see someone in the distance. And immediately the people of Medina Munawwara set out. The weapons were put on and they left. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his 3 companions, he saw them coming and he indicated with them to move. They moved towards what is known as the tribe of Amr ibn Auf. That's what we call today Quba. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was now going to stay in Quba for about 13 to 18 days. In Quba the masjid was going to be put up. The Jummah was going to take place. And people from Medina Munawwara were now thrilled as they came, and the different ash'ar that were sung, the different groups that would come. Now it was to go see, is this the Nabi of Allah? Abdullah bin Salam radiallahu anh, he speaks about that he looked for the sign of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because he saw the signs in the book. When he saw the sign, he said, this is the Nabi of Allah. And the Jews, they also knew the signs. He was also a Jew. He was a leader of the Jew, a master of their books. Hazrat Safiya radiallahu anha, who becomes the wife of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, her father and uncle were also the masters. Her uncle was a master of the book. He was like Abdullah bin Salam radiallahu anh. But what was it that when one saw the beloved Mubarak face of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was covered in joy. He said, I just heard his one sentence and I said, this is not the face of a liar. And Safiya radiallahu anha's uncle, he comes back from Quba. He enters into his library. He opens his books. He turns pages. Then he bangs his book. Her father asks, what? Is it him? And then he says, it is him. But he did not say that word, it is him, with happiness. The father says, so what we will do? He says, we will oppose him till the ending. What was meant by that, we will oppose him? This was the end of your rule. It was the end of your power. It was your end of easy days. They understood that this deen, the Jews for many years never have to fight. This deen comes with its fights. The word jihad was part and parcel of it. Perhaps for me and you, we never dreamt of this word. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned it very unique. Man lam yaghzu, that man who has never set out on a journey for battle. And we never set out. We never got the chance of it. There was no need for it. وَلَمْ يُحَدِّثْ بِهِ نَفْسَهُ, but he also never spoke to himself about how wonderful it is. Think about it. If I don't make ta'aleem with my children of the honor of jihad, of the honor of passing away on a battlefield, of how hard it is to pass away at home, and how wonderful it is to pass away on the battlefield. A Muslim warrior standing next to his friend in a certain battle, he lifted his head, the bullet hit. There and there his life was taken. His friend sees him in a dream. He asks him, how was death? Normal death is not an easy thing. Hazrat Shaykhul Hadith Moulana Zakaria rahimullah wrote about it. When the angel will pull, every part of the body will feel that pain. The soul is coming out from every corner. But for the mujahid, it's like a prick. For the mujahid, it's like a prick. A death on the battlefield is not a disgrace, it's an honor. But to have that desire. He asks his friend, how was death? He says, what are you asking about death? I lifted my head to see where the enemy is. I felt a certain knock on my head. That was what we will call a big bullet. But he said, I felt a certain knock on my head. And then I saw myself far in the heavens. What was it? He never felt a pull also. There was no pull of that soul also. But if ta'aleem does not take place with our children, وَلَمْ يُحَدِّثْ بِهِ نَفْسَهُ, and he does not think about it, remind himself about it, understand I have been created for it. The Jew understood that with Islam, with the coming of Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is coming again the call for jihad fi sabilillah. That forts that they had built in Medina Munawwara were now not going to help them. If they wanted to enter this deen, they had to come out of the fort. Now they could not sit back and watch the war. Now they would have to be part of the war. All of those thoughts were going. So many things they had grown used to, the enjoyment they got in interest, and how much of money they were making from the Arabs. That thought went in the mind. How they would play with their scriptures. When they wanted to punish someone, they would say, our book says you must be punished. When they wanted to overlook someone, they would say, no, he can be forgiven. All those thoughts went in their mind. They were big leaders. When deen will come, it will come with a question, are you prepared for sacrifice? The Ansar were prepared when they took that allegiance. That allegiance was death. That allegiance was jihad fi sabilillah. That allegiance was, we will protect you how we protect our lives, our wealth, our children. They only asked for one thing, وَلَنَا الْجَنَّةِ, that will we get paradise for it. That is our second mistake that we are now making in this world. That so much of the enjoyments of the world we understand, and especially because of technology, even to countries which we never went, we are now going. On the phone you will see this place, on the phone you will see that place. It can take you in the skies, it can take you under the waters. It can show you the thrills of this world. And every thrill gives another da'wah, that don't leave this world, there's too much to enjoy. Why is it that phone cannot, that the person presses Jannah, and it can show you what is Jannah? Because that phone hasn't got the ability for it. Had one pleasure of Jannah come in that phone would have melted. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam just spoke about one woman of Jannah. One woman of Jannah. Sometimes spoke about if she lets her scarf also just dangle, then the brilliance of that scarf also will outdo the sun. where that phone was going to show you Jannah. And if that man had to put Jahannam, then would that phone have managed to show what is the fire? But just because this world can't show it, what is Quran and Sunnah? It was to say, وَلَنَا al-Jannah. That they asked one thing, that with the sacrifice will paradise be given to us? The Ansar of Medina Munawwara came, and it was only poetry and poetry. طَلَعَ الْبَدْرُ عَلَيْنَا. The moon has now come to us from the valley of Wada, that valley where they would go to say goodbye to someone going out, where they would go to welcome someone if someone coming in. وَجَبَ الشُّكْرُ عَلَيْنَا. He says, now is the time to thank Allah. But to thank for what? Historians write, the people of Medina Munawwara were overjoyed that their city had been chosen for deen. But they knew that to be chosen for deen, it comes with a price. It is called sacrifice. Now every year that farming that they were doing, they were not going to be able to do it. Years and years would come and the crop would be wasted. It would come with sacrifice that house which was big for you and your family, now you had to share it with someone who you do not even know. They were ready for that sacrifice. That sacrifice of a man from another place is coming. You will be attacked from all corners and all sides. It will be your son, it will be your father that will be martyred in the protection of another qawm. Are you ready for death? They were ready for death. They were so thrilled that our small village has been accepted for deen. But deen does come with its price. In the preparation for the Mahdi, whether we will see his era or whether we will miss his era, but Allah Tabarak Ta'ala rewards a person on his intention and his preparation. What is the preparation? There are some people who make a very unique type of preparation as though they are the Mahdi themselves. They want to establish something. The Mahdi will stand like how the Nabi of Allah stood. There is no need for a man to stand as the Mahdi, or to carry on begging the Mahdi to stand, or to make the environment ready for the Mahdi. Almighty Allah, when the time will come for the Mahdi to stand, the environment will be ready. The need is for me to make myself ready. Will I be ready to respond to the call the day the call is made? Many a person asks, what are the signs of the Mahdi? That if the Mahdi has to stand, unique this is. In the authentic narrations, one of those signs is what is called the black flags. But scholars have always warned that the signs alone do not make a person the Mahdi. When the Mahdi will stand, you will find the signs with him. Me and you don't have to look for those signs. Why? Because throughout history there were so many examples where a group brought the flag. To have a black flag coming from Khurasan is nothing hard at all. History had a lot of examples. In one time in history when the Banu Abbas were in charge, the first Khalifa was Abdullah bin Muhammad, he was known as Saffah. The second one was his brother, he was also Abdullah bin Muhammad, meaning Hazrat Abdullah bin Abbas radiallahu anhu's grandson. So he took the title of Mansur, Abu Ja'far Mansur, the one who is helped. Then perhaps a thought went in his mind that, see, I am Abdullah. So if I name my son Muhammad, he will become Muhammad bin Abdullah. And because this movement of the Banu Abbas started from Khurasan, and it came with black flags. So he says, we got the black flags. You got a Muhammad bin Abdullah. You got it coming from Khurasan. Only one more thing you need, Mahdi. So he even gave the title to his son. You are Al-Mahdi. What else that boy needed now? But having the title, having the name, having the flag, having all the signs was not going to make the man the Mahdi. It was not going to. The great Tabi'i of his time, when someone said to him something of the Mahdi, he said, if you ever hear of the Mahdi coming, you sit in your house. Until a huge group gathers around him and they see properly, is he the Mahdi or not? That huge group means the scholars of the time. Almighty Allah got a system that every simple person doesn't have to find the Mahdi. The Mahdi will be found. And when he will be found, the announcement will be made in such a manner that the scholars of Haqq will have no doubt in him being the truth. And whoever is linked to the people of the truth, they will go with who they are linked. So to find the Mahdi is not something me and you have to worry about. Allah's Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam reached Medina Munawwara, no matter how much barriers the enemies made. The promised awaited Mahdi al-Muntazir will reach the place he has to reach. In Makkah Mukarramah he will be found. Allegiance will be taken to him. No enemy will manage to stop him. Thus what we are mentioning is when that call will be made, will me and you be ready at that moment to hear the word, are you ready for sacrifice? The Hijrah was to say to me every year and to you every year, don't connect your heart so much to this world that the day comes when that which you were talking about your whole life happens. And then you say, I always talked about it, but I never wanted it to happen. The Jews spoke lots, but the day it happened, their eyes opened. And then they looked at each other and says, what are we now going to do? Meaning, are we ready to lose it all? The people of Medina Munawwara, how they accepted Allah Tabarak Ta'ala make it, that on that day, every one of us are prepared. Allah's Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam continuing off in the completion of that narration, he said, Man lam yakhzu, that man who does not set out on a journey for fighting in the path of Allah, walam yuhaddith bihi nafsahu, and never ever he speaks to himself about it. He said, Mata ala shu'batin min nifaq, he will die the day he dies on a branch of hypocrisy. Why will he be called a hypocrite? For the same reason, that if you don't ever think about the thrill of fighting in the path of Allah, the day the opportunity comes, it's not a thrill. It's a barrier. On that day, hypocrisy surfaces. The man who spoke so much, I want Jannah, I want Jannah, I want the hurs of Jannah. But as soon as the chance comes, he says, no, not me. I want my forts. I want to close the doors. At that time, that eye that was looking so much becomes blind. Mata ala shu'batin min nifaq, a branch of hypocrisy, he dies the day he dies. Allah's Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam then spoke of the opposite, that person who asks Almighty Allah for shahada, man sa'al Allah al-shahada bi-sidqin, with a real sincere heart, he always asks, O Allah, will martyrdom be written in my account? Ballaghahu Allahu manazil al-shuhada, Almighty Allah will make him reach the mantles of the martyrs. Wa in mata ala firashihi, even if he happens to die at home. Even if he has to die at home, he will get where he wanted to get. We have many days still, but how many is those many days, we don't know. Vision 2030 is not a joke. It is a vision that they have something must happen at that time. The changes in the Muslim world is no joke. Reaching the end of that 100 years which normally comes with this revolution is no joke. We have found a time in history where every one of us have to say, perhaps that time has come when the move is taking place, that again Makkah Mukarramah, Medina Munawwara will stand for the world. At that time, will we be ready for it? Will we be happy with it? Will we sing words of poetry and joy? And we will say, I am ready, I am ready. May Allah Tabarak Ta'ala save us. It should not happen that our response is similar to the response of the Yahud to the Jew. Na'udhu billah. May Allah protect us. Wa akhiru da'wana. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.